Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 202 of How Do You Write? Thank you for all your sweet emails and comments lately. Yes, I have been having the best guests, haven't I? Becca Syme, Ed Giordano, and today we have Anjanette Delgado, who you are really going to enjoy listening to. She tells us a little bit about the magic of pre-production when it comes to writing novels. Also, she wanted to let me know that she forgot to say something, and she really wanted to point it out, that she loves working in Granthika, which is the program that Vikram Chandra was talking about a few episodes back. So I wanted to make sure that we got in that plug for Vikram's program, Granthika. In case you haven't checked it out, there's a free version you can try. So you're going to love listening to Anjanette. She's one of those people that I ended up hanging up with, just hoping that we would go on being friends, which is really not a bad reason to do a podcast, I have to tell you. So a little bit of a catch up around here. Honestly, I don't have much writing catch up to catch you up on. I have been just kind of punching away at the memoir, trying to get it into some shape. Struggling with this revision in a little bit more of a struggle than I expected, which is fine. I am up to the task. But I have been really distracted. There's not much going on, only the fall of democracy as we know it. Lala and I have been very preoccupied about, again, thinking about moving out of this country. There's always been the thing that has told us, don't go, you can't give up. People, I'm ready to give up. I really am. We're looking into New Zealand because we can go there since I have citizenship. However, they have a very expensive quarantine. It's 2 weeks and $3,000 each, which is great. I mean, they're keeping COVID out of the nation. That's fantastic because they are clear of it. But that's a little costly, plus, importing dogs in. So we're looking at other places too. I don't know. If you are feeling a little beaten up by news, if you are American, I feel you, and I also ache for you. So please know that I am with you there. The indictment of just the one officer in the killing of Breonna Taylor has me just beyond furious, and it's very difficult. It's difficult to wrestle with all of this and get our work done, our writing done, and get our jobs done if we have another job, and watch the kids if we have kids, and take care of parents if you're taking care of parents. This is heavy. This is a lot. If you are struggling to get your writing done, do remember that when I get my head in the game, which is generally just every morning for a couple of hours, or when I go to Rachel Says Write, which I'm going to this afternoon, thank goodness, I escape. And it is such a good escape. It is so fun. So remember that you have that as one of your superpowers, the ability to escape into your work. What other escapes have I been having? Well, I binged the home edit. I might have mentioned that. And I have just been in really solid nesting mode. My office, you will see over my shoulder, it looks, oh, there's a dog. Looks fabulous. The office is fantastic. I'm going to attack the kitchen next. The really nice thing is that there's no weird corners full of stuff. I tend to be a pack rat, and my wife is a lot more of a pack rat than I am, I must say. And so we have stuff upon our stuff, under our stuff, over our stuff. I usually try to keep surfaces clear, but you've seen over my shoulder, I don't usually manage that. So all of this nesting that I've been doing between books is going to make packing a lot easier if we go. So yeah, it's that's exciting. So yeah, the kitchen is next. I've got all sorts of containers to put things in, even though Marie Kondo would be rolling over in her beautifully 500 thread count sheets to know that I bought containers to organize things into, but I love a container. I love the Container Store. I really love Daiso, which we have a couple of nearby. It's a Japanese store where you can buy basically the same things you can get at the Container Store, but they're all $1.50 or $2. It's like a really cool dollar store. If you're looking over my shoulder, the creak that you all just heard is my dog letting herself out. Our dog Clementine, that was Dozy. Our dog Clementine's still sick, not feeling well, suffering pancreatitis and maybe some kind of infection. So we've been spending a lot of time and mental energy and a lot of money, but that's what money is for, on her. So that's what we're dealing with. And I will say that even though I'm ground down by the news, I am still hot and heavy in this romance with my work. Even though I'm complaining about the revision, I'm still getting there, and I'm loving it when my head is in it. I am also allowing you to remember that it's hard. It's hard right now. So give yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up. If you've been struggling to get to the page, just get to the page and do a little bit. You're the only one who can do this. I was watching Austin Kleon on an older video, a couple year old video, and he reminds us to do the noun. Do the verb, not the noun. You want to do the verb, not the noun. You want to be a writer? That's great. You want to think about writing, you want to read books about writing? Awesome. But you got to do the verb in order to be a writer. You got to sit down and write, even though it is uncomfortable and the only things that comes out of your fingers are things that you hate. That's fine. You will revise them later. And revision is difficult. I'm leading an amazing group through 90-day revision right now. And every time I teach this class, I am reminded, oh my God, it is so hard to learn how to do this. Once you get the skills though, they're your skills forever. So that's great. I wanted to give a quick shout out to new patrons. Thank you, Anne Marie. Thank you, John Rinfleisch the Ninth. You just edited your pledge up and now I am your mini coach. Same thing to Stephanie Bond. Stephanie Bond, you're amazing. Love you. You're the best. Katrina Dixon, thank you. And Sasha Black. Oh, thanks, Sasha. It means a lot to have you. I love your shows. So let's jump into the interview with Anjanette. She will pull us out of this state of existential despair, at least for a few moments. And then when you're done listening, maybe you can go find some respite in your own work. Okay, tell me how you're doing. Find me anywhere online. I love to hear from you, and I wish you very happy writing, my friends. Okay, well, I could not be more pleased to welcome to the show today Anjanette Delgado. Anjanette, I said it wrong. Anjanette, hello, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so happy to have you here. Okay, let me give you a little introduction. Anjanette Delgado is a Puerto Rican writer and journalist. She is the author of The Heartbreak Pill from Simon & Schuster, the 2009 winner of the Latino International Book Award, and of The Clairvoyant of Calle Ocho from Kensington. Her work has appeared in numerous anthologies, as well as in the Kenyon Review, Pleiades, Vogue, the New York Times, Modern Love, might I add, NPR, HBO, among others. A Breadloaf Conference alumni, she won an Emmy Award for feature writing in 1994, served as a judge for the Flannery O'Connor Short Fiction Award in 2015, and was a Peter Taylor Fellow in Fiction in 2016. Her short story Lucky was nominated for a 2020 Pushcart Prize. Damn! She holds an MFA in creative writing from Florida International University and lives in Miami, Florida. That's a stellar bio there, Anjanette.
Oh, thank you.
That is so exciting.
Thank you. I was just, as you were reading, I was just noticing, oh my God, that's how you spell, that's how you pronounce Pleiades. I've never known how to pronounce it. I think they nominated. Yeah, I think they nominated me for an award. I should learn how to pronounce the name of the journal. But
the thing is, though, I always say that, like, readers, when we don't know how to pronounce something, it's because we read so much. We've never heard it, but it makes us smarter. That's all.
May I steal that?
Yes, you should steal that. Okay, so I just read your Modern Love piece. It's beautiful, and it gave me a good flavor for your writing. And I was looking at your books. The Clairvoyant of Calle Ocho was, I think on one of the pages I saw, it's described as a recovering clairvoyant. Is that right?
Yeah, she's a really bad clairvoyant. She's just, she's just really incompetent, partly because she has decided that, this gift has to be perfect. This talent of hers has to be perfect. And when it isn't perfect, she then sets it aside, doesn't practice, doesn't listen to it. And so of course it atrophies, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, she's just now beginning to think that she may need to pick it up after all. Pick it back up again because she needs this.
That has
yeah.
That book has just flown to the top of my TBR pile. I must read it. Let's talk a little bit about your process. This show is all about process.
Sure.
How do you get your writing done? Where do you get your writing done? If people are looking on the YouTube video, there's this beautiful desk behind you. Is that your workspace?
It's an old table. Yes, I actually just bought it at a vintage.
It's gorgeous.
And that's where I used to write. It's just like a little sofa that sort of serves like almost like a dining bench. For some reason, I do not like writing on proper desks.
What do you think?
I don't know why.
About? Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. I just it makes me feel stifled a little. It just makes me feel like, okay. So for example, I like to write at the kitchen counter where I'm talking to you from right now. I love when, before pre-pandemic, I used to go to cafes.
Yeah.
In another life, I was a journalist, so I would write in a newsroom, and you have a deadline, and it doesn't matter what's happening. You will write. When you have a deadline that's that day, you will write. And you learn to shut everything out,
That's amazing.
Yeah, my husband complains a lot because he says that sometimes I'll be reading and he's been calling to me for, I don't know how many minutes, and I don't listen. And I really don't, I just tune it out. So that comes from that training. I don't like to be isolated when writing. So I'm isolated inside myself. I like to see people and, just a lot of activity around me. And I think I get that from, not being at a desk, but just sort of being like in the middle of the house, in the middle of whatever is happening.
In terms of writer's strengths, I think that has to be such a gift. It's kind of like those people who can just lie down and fall asleep when they close their eyes.
Me. Yes.
You also? Oh
yes.
My God. I wonder if there's some kind of connection to that.
There might be.
You can just turn off the world when you need to.
There might be. But, I think I know how I developed it. Like partly obviously was because of the job, right? Being a journalist, working in a newsroom, that happens. But I also realized, thinking about it, that when I was a child, I would also just get inside the book. And once I was in the story, people would be calling me and I wouldn't hear a thing. And, there could be a fire right next to me and I wouldn't even notice. And I think reading gives you the ability to focus. When people tell me I'm not able to read, I know that they haven't practiced reading enough to get to the point where your brain is making the pictures automatically and you're not noticing that you are reading, right?
Yeah. And it really is practice. Yeah.
Right. And I think if somebody wants to be able to develop that ability to, not to be distracted by every little noise around, reading will do it.
Yeah.
Reading a lot, reading more than 2 hours. When I have a student that has an issue getting into a story, I said, okay, set a clock and don't stop. You'll notice that as you get closer to that 2 hours, you forget you're reading.
You're super deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the best feeling. So right now during pandemic, you are working from home. How is that shift been? I'm also a cafe writer. I hate writing at home. I do everything else at home, but not writing.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel incredibly lucky and blessed that I don't, nobody I know or love directly, has been sick so far.
Good.
I do live in Miami.
Hotspot.
So, what we have in sun, we make up for in stupidity sometimes. So I'm happy to stay home and be safe rather than be out there with people not following basic rules. And also, I don't know that you'll find a writer that will tell you that they didn't find the silver lining in this whole thing.
I know.
I just feel like we needed to slow down a little bit, and maybe, I wouldn't have wanted it to happen this way, but I do think there's that silver lining to it, if you will.
That slowing down has been so gorgeous in so many ways. And just like you, I would never have wanted this to happen, but to be forced to slow down is pretty wonderful. Yeah.
I have to learn how to do it to myself, right? How to force myself.
And how we keep this, if we ever get back to something approaching normal, how to keep this feeling.
Exactly. So I think, did I answer your question? I'm sorry. I started chatting with you.
So now do you write at your counter is where you're mostly at?
Yeah. I'm right now it's my counter, maybe my table tomorrow, just wherever I feel in the middle of, and not some place where I plan to write here and where, you look at the place and, oh dear, the folders with the research are perfectly lined, with markers, color coded, of course. And it's just saying you have, when I look at that, it's like you have to write. Whereas where I write, when I allow myself to write wherever, you could write, it could be magical. You don't have to, nobody's forcing you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you could.
Oh, I love that. I'm a little jealous of that. I find I'm one of those isolated writers. I've got to like, if I'm not isolated, I have to put the things in my ears and turn up the white noise so loud so everything is drowned out. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
My biggest challenge is my life, having it be too full, right?
Yeah.
And not being able sometimes to decide how full it can be at any given moment. So right now I'm editing an anthology, and I'm happy. I'm very excited about it. I am teaching MFA students for the first time. I've always wanted to teach, and I've taught, but mostly lecturing or
right.
It's different.
So are you all online now?
My school will be online, mostly online. Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and so there's all these things happening, right? I just finished my third novel.
Congratulations.
Hopefully, thank you. Hopefully it'll go to my agent soon so he can tell me how to rewrite it. And so all of those competing things that I love to do.
Yeah.
Right. Saying no to this and that I also love, and just kind of, focusing. But I do write every day. And I found that if I have a lot of projects, a lot of writing projects, that helps. The other thing that helps me a lot is to write when I'm not writing. So because I wrote my first novel when I was the mother of 2 teenagers, I learned to get those moments. I could never tell you, Rachel, I have to wait until I have a full afternoon, because it takes me so long to get into the concentration of the page that once I get there, I can't just stand up and have to go do something else. But I learned that if I did something called pre-production, and that again comes from my TV days, and I teach a class called Finish Your Novel the TV Way, which is basically using what I learned as a TV writer and working with TV writers. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, when you are getting paid to write, you write. I don't know if you write well, but I know you write. So my class isn't about writing better. I'm sure there's a lot of other people that can do better, how to write better. I just tell them what I use, because I need to get paid, and to get paid, you have to finish, right? It's not enough to start, and it's not enough to spend X amount of hours. You have to have a plan for finishing something.
A plan and that deadline that goes with it. Yeah.
A plan and sometimes it's your own deadline, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so one of the things that TV writers do or have is that the world is built, right? There's a head writer that has imagined or conceived of this series. Let's compare the series to a novel, right? So a novel, a series has, let's say, 26 episodes, and a novel may have 20 to 26 chapters. When you think about in terms of arc, they're similar, but the TV writer starts with, okay, this is the world, this is the tone, these are the characters more or less, while we're casting. Start with an idea. So I started doing that for myself. For example, I would go online or on a magazine, and I would kind of cast my characters. And it doesn't mean that you're going to describe the picture exactly.
But it's just something for your head.
Well, it forces you to think, why did you think this picture went with that? Because then you say, well, yes, Mark Ruffalo looks just like Peter, but what is it about the essence of Mark? Well, he looks boyish, but he looks earnest, and that forces you to think about your character in a deeper way. It may be that
genius.
You throw away the picture, right? Of the celebrity or whatever.
It becomes your character after a while. Yeah.
But you found what was it that called you to that image, as opposed to having to paint from scratch to begin with.
Yeah.
Kind of start from, like you would start, like people sometimes will base a character on a friend or a family member.
Yeah.
It's the same. You're just doing it with a photo. And kind of using that process to tell yourself what calls to you, what is in your head already. The same, I do a map, and I like to know where each place is, right? But all of that, what I call pre-production, helps you, because if one day I just have 10 minutes and I don't know where I am in a scene, I may use those 10 minutes to think about what a character may be cooking in a scene I know I have to write later. Just gets that out of the way, you know, so that I use that time and I keep myself in the world of my novel, if that makes sense.
I have done this show for 4 years now, and I have never heard this.
Really?
It is so helpful to think of using these little bits of time to do little pieces of pre-production, so that when you get there, you've already worked on some of this stuff. This is kind of blowing my mind.
Right. Well, because when you're sitting, has it ever happened? Oh, good, on Saturday, I have the whole afternoon to write. I'm so excited. You sit down with your tea, right? Your color-coded research, your whole thing, and then you start the scene, and you're like, because you're missing information. You're missing information. So then you think, oh, I need to do more research, and then you go down the rabbit hole of more research for God knows when. But if you have specifics, so I'll do like a little homework list. Oh wait, I have to think about songs. I need some songs for this scene.
Amazing.
And then, and I put it in the notes in my phone. I mean, nothing fancy. And then when I'm at the doctor's or wherever I am, and I have 10 minutes, 15 minutes to kill that I wasn't expecting, I say, oh, you know, I don't have a head sometimes to write. My head is, you know, my head hurts or it's too much. I can't concentrate, but I can concentrate on finding a few songs. That I can always do. I can look up research for what a name of a character might mean. I could look at a map of the neighborhood where it takes place and do a Google satellite just to familiarize myself with what the streets might look like right now.
Oh my God, Anjanette, this is
right.
Especially having the list to work from.
Right, because you won't think about it in 10 minutes, right? You won't think about what you may spend the 10 minutes thinking, what do I
just trying to think of something. Yeah,
no, but it's just pick something from there that would adjust to the time you have. And then that also helps when you do have the 4 hours of luxuries,
right?
You know, because you have a lot of information that you're excited about.
Oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. It's so good. So let me ask you, in terms of your process, are you a plotter or a fly by the seat of your pantser?
I do not like to be a pantser, but I do admit that sometimes the fancy strikes and I'll just, you know, start thinking that I am a pantser, but I'm not. I like to plot loosely. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
I'm a loose plotter.
Yeah.
Right. So I like to have, I like to understand the world. I don't need to know every detail about the world that I'm going to be writing about, but I do need to know some, right? Some basic things. I like to know something about my character. I don't think so much in terms of like what's in her closet and doing a whole biography.
Yeah.
Because if I start doing all of that, I'll get lost in all that. Right. I'm the kind of student, when I was a student, you know, I'm the person with all the markers and all the little tabbed, divided notebooks, and, you know, and I could get really lost in all that process. And too much process. So I try to keep it practical to what I will use, to know enough to start laying out something, and I'll kind of go back and forth, right? Maybe that I started by plotting a bit loosely, and I started to write, and I realized, wait a minute, something's missing. I need to go back to plotting a little more, you know, and I go back and you go back and forth, right?
So now when do you add to this list, this pre-production list that you're going to look at later too?
When I'm stuck.
When you're stuck. That's when you start adding to it.
Yeah, because when I have the list and I start getting all my info, I start getting excited. I can't wait to write that list and you know, and explain how whatever she used burned the lips, and how to describe, you know, how the lips pucker when whatever. But once I get to a place where I don't know, I can't see it, I can't visualize anything, I know that I need to, you know, to answer those questions that whatever it is that I'm missing. It also helps you when you're revising. You know, you could just, at some point, instead of doing formal revising, you could just go through to find words that repeat themselves too much. Mm-hmm. It's a job. It will do. It
has to be done.
Right. It has to be done. And you don't have to think a lot. Adjective, cross it off, you know, or circle it so that you can decide out of 36 adjectives which 10, if that, you'll keep. Right.
How many justs you'll keep. Because I have so many justs on every page.
Yeah. Like bite-sized tasks that will keep you working. Writing will save you time from feeling like a failure because you're not writing. You are writing. You're just not writing. You're just not, writing sentences, but you're writing. You are creating the world of your novel and what happens in it. And you're giving it texture.
You've just given me this huge piece of writing that I've never used, this big tool that I have never picked up before. Yeah. And I love it. And I know that listeners are going, oh my gosh, I have never thought about it that way.
I hope so. No? Because, when you think about it, what it allows you to do is to be more productive, right?
Yeah.
You're able to use your uptime and your downtime, your focused time and your unfocused time.
Yeah.
Your interrupted time and your non-interrupted time, and stay in it. Because do you know of anything worse than having a lot of days pass without getting back to it, and then having to reread everything from scratch because you forgot?
It's so cold.
You're out of it. Mm-hmm. You have to get back into it, right? And it's okay when you have 5 pages, but when you have 100, it's time that you're wasting, and it's not going to make your book any better. So stay in your novel, stay in it as much as you can. Even if it's just thinking of it as you're cooking, thinking about the character, just thinking even.
And what would I rather be doing? Like, Googling something that's super interesting that I can use in the book, or looking at Twitter for the 400th hour that
and
day,
sometimes,
right?
And sometimes what you're looking for, and I'll confess to this, but dear God, you want something mindless to do.
Exactly. That's why we scroll Twitter. Right. That's why we look at Facebook. Yeah.
Right. So you are there and you say, oh my God, I'm so tired. I just had 10 calls, 2 Zooms and whatever.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to browse the sale. I'm going to browse Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at houses that I will never buy. And you're doing something mindless. You could do something mindless that nevertheless could be useful later.
I feel like you may have just changed my life, and that does not always happen on this show. This is my new game. And I am starting a book pretty soon, so this is so incredibly exciting. I think that must satisfy the craft tip question that I was going to ask you about, unless you have something else.
No, it's basically when I've taught it, I can't tell you. Students just look at me, when I walk in with magazines and scissors, and when they'd be sort of okay. There is another part of it, right? Obviously, you're trying to build what happens next and why, right? Causal effect, and all of those things. And so, there's more to it. But they are pretty excited about being able to build the world before, having to think of everything. As if it were magical.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Yeah.
No.
Let me ask you, what thing in your life affects your writing in a surprising way?
Well, it's not surprising to me. I have grown daughters.
Yeah.
And when they are unhappy, I know they're unhappy. They broke up with the boyfriend, or they fought with the husband, or they're not getting along with their mom-in-law. Hi. Or they lost a job, or they lost a friend. Yeah. It just consumes me.
Really?
And I'm pretty hands-off. One of my daughters, my eldest daughter, lives in New York. Mm-hmm. She just got married in November. I love my son-in-law. But things that affect her life affect me. She had an issue with a lawyer that, basically was trying to cheat her a month ago. And I couldn't think about anything else. I was like, I'm going to write an email, and you do this and you go that and call the bar. And I get completely sucked into solving it now.
Yeah.
And I cannot just, until they've told me that they've solved it on their own, or they ask for help so I can do it for them.
How does that mama bear energy translate into your work?
It's exhausting. I don't know that it does. I really don't. Most of my protagonists, and I'm going into, long form novel.
Yeah.
They're childless. All 3 of them are childless.
God, that's hilarious. And I have no kids, and I'm obsessed with the mother-daughter connection. All of my books are about moms and daughters. So that is so
Dear
funny.
Lord. I think that's why they're all childless. I'm excited about that other
So simple.
part that just, it's crazy, that once somebody else is born, it's not up to you to be happy anymore.
Yeah.
They'll be able to determine whether you can be happy forever. That's terrifying.
Tell from here that you are an amazing mother.
Oh,
And that you
thank you.
love your girls so much.
I try. I have amazing girls. They are amazing.
Okay, so what is the best book you've read recently? And why do you love it?
Okay, I love to talk about that. Okay, well, I'm still reading this one, but I'm enjoying it very much. So this is I think it just came out yesterday, day before yesterday.
Uh-huh.
This is The Boy in the Field by Margot Livesey.
It's a beautiful cover.
Oh my goodness, all her covers are really good. I've never met her, but I love her. I tweet at her all the time. Her sentences are lyrical, but also they drive. They go places. They don't just meander, in the beauty of whatever.
Yeah.
She can write a really poetic sentence that doesn't take you out of the story.
Ooh.
And for me, that's high praise.
Absolutely.
So she's really good, and she's a really good plotter, I find.
Okay.
A really good plotter. So this one, for example, there's a mystery in it, and I think I'm less than 50 pages from finishing, and I don't know the answer. I don't know what happened. Okay.
Also very high praise.
Also
when a writer can't figure it out. That's amazing.
Thank you, right? Because it's not a one-dimensional plot where I can see it coming, you know? And also she's not like rattling off suspects. I had to read out, and after a while I said, wait a minute, this could be a suspect, that could be a suspect. That could be a suspect. No, I'm just like, anyway. Then this I actually reviewed them. I don't know either the writer or the translator. So Nona Fernandez is a Chilean writer.
Uh-huh.
Look at the thinness of this novel. I think it's 60-something, very short pages, 70-something.
And this is a novel? It's not poetry?
This is a novel.
Wow.
Well, this is a novel about the Chilean dictatorship.
Ooh.
Look. And when I finished, I was complete. I said, holy cow, I get it.
What's it called again?
It's called Space Invaders, both in English and in Spanish.
Okay.
Now, the first time I read it in English.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it was translated by Natasha Wimmer, who has translated many. She was Bolaños's translator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she knows something about translating dense things and making them,
Yeah, it's an art.
Accessible. But oh my goodness. I mean, I read this first and I said, nah, she must have rewritten it, because there's no way she captured all that lyricism translating from Spanish to English, with the Germanic roots and all of that.
Yes.
So I had to buy the Spanish. She did capture it. She did capture it. There was not
thinking about it.
And I'm one of those people who will be watching something on Netflix and going, the translation, it just bothers me so much.
Right.
When something is translated to English and that's not what they meant at all. Or the other way around, English to Spanish, like a formal, I once done un abogado formal, which would really be a formal lawyer. And what they had meant to say was a former lawyer. Not formal, but
very formal.
I have issues. And this is a perfect translation. I mean, it's amazing. It's a story of a bunch of kids who were children in the same classroom when the dictatorship took hold. And one of their classmates is the daughter of a military guy, and she disappears one day. And so they're piecing together what they know.
Oh, don't tell me too much more, because I have to read it.
You won't know, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I actually wish I had marked like a paragraph to read you, so you could hear the music of it. And then lastly, and this one I'm just discovering. This is Raquel Salas Rivera. While They Sleep, Under the Bed is Another Country. She's Puerto Rican like me. And she's writing about colonization, and she's writing about lack of identity, and she's writing about Puerto Rico. Look at these pages. She's just kind of going at overheard pieces from people after Maria, and just kind of tracing.
So there's a lot of
conversation of overheard prayers, and then it all sort of comes together in, you know, in a longer prose poem or lyric essay. But by the time you get to that lyric essay, all those little layers have just gotten inside you, and so it's just so much more powerful.
I'm going to put all of these in the show notes.
This is an amazing book. I haven't told her. I don't know her personally, but I know her on Twitter. And you know I'm loving the book before she does. So
that's so exciting.
Anyway, I'm a big reader. I read almost 100 books a year. That
is a big reader. I think I only do like 60 or so.
I read every 2-3 days. I'm on the next book. I read a lot to fall asleep. And I read a lot because it just keeps me so there.
It keeps us
in
the
learning.
Work.
Yeah. And then what I did to sort of keep myself at that pace, I review books for the New York Journal of Books.
Oh,
so if you look it up, last year I reviewed 50 books.
Holy cow, Anjanette.
I know.
Fancy too.
But it's so great because you have a deadline and you get into the books and you read deeply, deeper than sometimes we do when we can just put it off, you know?
Right. And you get boxes of free books all the time.
There you go. Win-win.
Tell the listeners where we can find you, and tell them about your most recent book.
Well, my most recent book, I'm hoping it will sell. So I've written 3 novels, 2 of which you mentioned, and the third, which my agent is selling. Part of what has, and that's interesting, I'll just mention it very quickly, but it's become such a big thing. My first book was, quite frankly, what they call chick lit. It was a woman's story. It was a little lighter in the sense that it didn't deal with, you know, big things. It dealt with love battles. It wasn't exactly a romance. I remember that the blurbs read smart chick lit. As if books for women were done. But this one happened to be smart. We need to point that out. Smart chick lit, not dumb chick lit. Smart chick lit. Yeah. And the second one was, I was compared to Charlaine Harris. And at the time I hadn't read. Publishers Weekly compared Clairvoyant to Charlaine Harris, which I hadn't read. And you know, when I looked, it said YA, and I said, what does that mean? They're comparing me to a YA book. Right. Later, I was very, very honored and flattered when I realized.
Yeah, those are great books.
Oh my God, I read all of them. But then I decided, as I changed, as I went on conferences, and as I started, you know, leaving behind my life as a journalist and becoming more of a full-time writer, if you will, I realized that I had changed. That where I sold my books may not be the best places going forward, because I am not necessarily just a commercial writer anymore. And so that necessitated a lot of time and transitioning. And even now, I think that, you know, it's a lot of learning.
Yeah. To
sell a literary novel that's nevertheless has cannibals, and it's about hunger and death, and there's a mystery and all of that, but it's the language and the tone is different.
Yeah, of course.
So people can find me anywhere that books are sold, obviously. My website, which is just my name, very easy.
Anjanette.
I'm all over social media. I regularly write columns and op-eds on social justice. Yeah, once in a while I get so upset. It needs that needs to, you know, leave the body.
I think that's one of our jobs as writers, is to work for social justice, and we have this particular tool that not a lot of people have.
I've been surprised. I've been surprised at how much it has helped all my other writing to pen an op-ed. And, you know, people think an op-ed is just writing what you think, but it's really testing yourself, testing what you think, finding the arguments, finding the factual arguments to support your thesis, right? Your feeling. And that brings about a process of thought, of claiming your own feelings and telling yourself whether they're, you know, they pass muster or not. That I find enlightening and, you know, just a great release. So I'm doing that. So they'll find they'll find me talking about Latino issues, racial issues, feminist issues.
I'm going to follow you immediately on Twitter, because I'm a Twitter head.
Yes, please. And soon in other places where, you know, there's a new anthology coming out that I'm so excited about.
What is the anthology based around?
It's for University of Florida Press, and the working title right now is Latinx Writers on the Politics of Belonging.
Oh,
So
fabulous.
I've tried to create a whole selection on the literature of rootedness, right?
Yeah.
And what that means.
Yeah.
So Richard Blanco is in it. Janine Capocruzet, who you may know.
I've heard the name.
Patricia Engel. There's just Reynaldo Arenas. I was able to get select a story for this, and I'm really excited about that.
You're doing a little bit of everything.
And
You
that's,
really are.
remember how you asked me at the beginning, what was the big thing? Having all these things that are also important to me.
Yeah.
Trying to, you know, eat away at the purely writing time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're getting it all done, and you are
Fingers crossed.
incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
I have enjoyed this interview so deeply, and I love the energy that you bring to this.
You.
And I'm trying to stay very still because I'm having a microphone thing where it makes a lot of noise, but usually I would just be like doing this all over the screen because I'm so excited to talk to you and meet you. And thank you for doing this show. And I
anytime.
Wish, oh my gosh.
Anytime at all.
I'm going to claim you as a friend now, so you can't get rid of me.
Of course.
Thank you, Anjanette. Happy writing.
And thank you to your listeners.